Hey everyone, welcome back to the silly side of the internet at Brilliant Minds.
Well said.
I mean, at least the silly side of two slightly unhinged therapists.
Ain't that the truth?
I mean, there's no lies to be found. I'm Olivia, and this is my best friend, business partner.
Andrea, hello.
Yeah, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the, I like to call it the Achilles heel of our field.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
anyone that is a therapist listening to this, you've probably already thought about what we're going to talk about, which is documentation. Woohoo! Yay! Yay!
Yay!
Um, okay, so I think the first thing that we should cover
hmm
is just right out of the gate. Let's just say that you and I don't struggle with documentation. So that's our bias
Nope.
going in.
Yeah.
So, we're going to talk about a thing that is the Achilles heel of our field while also recognizing that it is not our Achilles heel. So, I just wanted that to be like kind of said right out of the gate. Like, that's our bias going in, like, we both don't struggle with it. Like,
We
legitimately. Like, I'm
don't.
not even joking. Like, we don't struggle.
No. And we know that because we have been told that, and
Yeah.
we know that because we coach that. And I think the feedback like that we get from that is like, "Oh, you know what you're doing." Yeah, after 10 years, I'd hope so.
Yeah, that and like, I know you had to audit my stuff.
My God.
And I think, well, I
Yeah.
don't think I had to audit you because I didn't really do audits. But yeah, um, you've seen my treatment records,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
I have.
it's not. Yeah, there's
I've
no
seen a
spices.
lot of treatment records, just generally speaking. So,
I mean, I have too. Not as many as you because you used to actually like audit treatment records. I did not
yeah,
sign up for that. Surprisingly, didn't sign up for that. Weirdly,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And part of this topic comes up today for us in lieu of the like big media case that's going around, but of
Mm.
what's her name, Lacey Clancy or something. I don't remember her name.
I,
Whatever
I
the
think it's
mom
Lindsay.
is, Lindsay. I was like, Lace. I don't know the mom case, right? And a lot of what's coming out is this conversation amongst therapists around documentation. So we figured today we're not going to go over the case. We don't. I do not have time to deep dive into that, nor do we really want to. So we're going to talk generally about this Achilles heel, this thing that comes up a lot in court cases, media issues, and in just practice in general that have to do with documentation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a lot of different potential theories as to why I think this is, but why do you think clinicians struggle so much with documentation?
I think that's something that I think about kind of often, especially as a supervisor, because I'm constantly looking at documentation. I'm constantly looking at this, and then I'm always like, but why don't I struggle with it? I think is another question I ask myself is like, how have I been able to do it, but so many people haven't? And I think it's
Yeah.
hard for me to answer that question because I that sounds so unhumble, but like because I
It's
don't
true.
struggle with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I feel the same way. I feel the same way of like,
hmm
especially, we'll talk more about this idea, but
Yeah.
clinicians in the field generally they struggle with this, but then especially like neurodivergent clinicians really struggle with documentation, like
hmm
the executive function piece of it and the like difficulty creating a routine or system around it, really
hmm
challenging. And so I often think this. I'm like, I have ADHD. Why don't I struggle with these same things in
Right.
documentation? Like I see
Right.
so many other people struggle with because like I have that same mental capacity to struggle
hmm
and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I am to put some sort of reason or theory to why people struggle, I think I think a lot of therapists out there go into therapy not thinking that that's a part of it
Mm,
and not really knowing or understanding or really truly realizing the importance of it and why it is a crucial part of our job. I think so many therapists just kind of like throw it out and then have a hard time being like connecting it when they don't experience why it's important. I think both you and I have had experiences where we know and can see why documentation is important and have experienced things. You know, I worked in ERs before going into getting my master's, and like it is critical to document everything. And so I had just kind of had that natural muscle like starting in the field, but I think there are so many therapists that just don't take it that seriously. I don't know. That's my only reason that I can think about it. Because school teaches you documentation.
Mm,
Mine sure did.
mine did
A
not.
lot. Really? That's interesting to me.
So, of course, social workers didn't.
I mean, I've heard some have it.
I mean, I hope they do now, but definitely
Yeah.
like way back in the day. And when I went and got my master's, no,
That's so interesting. You'd
we
think that
barely
that
had
would
a.
be really important.
I mean, we barely had a like diagnosing class. I mean, part of it I think is just because social workers can do so many different things that like the
Yeah,
idea
that's
of
fair.
training and documentation, it's like it's going to look different
Yeah.
depending on the kind of social work you're doing. Like in schools, in hospitals,
Hmm.
nonprofit work, at the county,
Right.
community mental health, like all of it's going to be so different. Like there wouldn't be a good way to
It's true.
encapsulate that. But
I guess I've worked with some social work students who are like specifically in a
like a
course
clinical.
line work for that. Yeah. So that's probably where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, now more than ever, there's a lot more like ways to specialize in your master's in social work. Like back when I did it, it was basically like, are you going to do macro work? Or are you going to do like,
Yeah,
like
that
more
makes sense.
like meso, micro kind of work? That was
Yeah.
basically the distinction. And now it's like, oh, you can do a clinical social work track. You can do a, I don't know, like youth and families track or, whatever. So I
Right.
would be surprised that documentation is a part of it now, but definitely not
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah. I mean, I guess then it's still like that theory still doesn't apply, right? Because if some programs do include it, if they don't include it, there are still therapists, so many therapists that struggle with this.
I almost feel like I see more the inverse is that I think clinicians know how important documentation is
Mm,
and then they like don't know how to do it out of fear that they're going to get it wrong because they know it's important.
that's an interesting theory too. I have seen that.
Right. Of like, I know it's important and I know I need to do it and like, I know I need to include all these things, but like, I feel like I'm going to screw it up or it's wrong or I don't want to do it wrong. So then I like just don't do it
Yeah.
or don't
Yeah.
start or whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess like we are told different things too in different settings about what's important and what's not important and how much to put and how little to put, and it can get really overwhelming, and to also know that that documentation is for the client and it's for the insurance company, right? And so it's like I can see how it could be also feel really overwhelming, and that fear of like, well then what do I put? Well, I'm just going to avoid it, or whatever that, defense mechanism is to that.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I think it's part of that. And the other thing I see when I see the documentation is like, I guess maybe lack of standardization or like training around documentation. At least like from my
Well,
experience, like I said, in my master's, like we
yeah.
didn't have any documentation training at all. And it
Right.
basically, they just were like, hey, rely on your place of work, rely on your place of internship to teach you. Well, it's
Hmm.
like sometimes that can be like blind leading the blind, respectfully.
Yeah.
Shout out to my internships. But like, like what makes them qualified or not qualified, and like,
Right.
there's really no like, there's no set
Hmm.
standard or like structure around documentation.
No, and there's also certain states do also implement their own requirements, which not in this not in the primary state that we are licensed in, but in my secondary state there
Thank
is.
God.
And so we have a lot of things to look at. And to kind of go back to what you said about like training too, what I've heard, I've never taken an outside documentation training myself. I've taken one my master's program had a bunch. We had to write DAP notes and SOAP notes like over and over and over again. And we can maybe get into those later. But I have heard from people who have taken outside documentation courses, so much anxiety come from them. I think there is a certain someone that you and I know and are aware of that does a training.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
I've had multiple associates or clinicians go to that training and come back and be like, I need to do this and this and this and this and this in my documentation. I'm like, chill. Throw some water on your hot pants here. Like,
I've actually taken 2 different documentation trainings.
You have? Okay.
Yeah. The first one I took was like a fully online one, and I took it when I first transitioned to a clinical role of like being a therapist, because at the time I didn't feel like I was getting any supervision support on my documentation.
I mean, you weren't.
I wasn't. And I like specifically asked for feedback because I was like, hey, all the documentation I've done up to this point is through like my nonprofit work, and we're grant funded, and so the documentation is basically like directed by this grant and like what we have to document to keep our funding and like for audits and stuff. But it's not necessarily like clinical and nature. And so like I asked for a lot of direct feedback on like, okay, how do I do this? And all I got back was like, oh, like your notes look good. And I was like, but nothing, like no feedback at all. So I ended up taking a documentation training. And to be honest with you, well, this was like, 7 years ago, 8 years ago? Jesus Christ. Yeah. Don't remember a lot of it. But I will say the one I did online, maybe it's just because it was online, it was way less anxiety inducing than the documentation I took that was like, I almost said live action. That's not what I mean.
I mean, kinda.
What's the yeah, live. I was like, it wasn't in person. I was gonna say in person. I was like, that's not.
It's just live.
Just live action. Live action therapy. Could you imagine? Sorry, that's so funny.
That was good.
Definitely like less anxiety inducing, and she seemed like pretty informative. It was long, but like overall it was helpful, and like I liked the way it was structured. And I think there were like some actual takeaways that I would still use in training somebody else in how to document.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So like that's impressive. Mm-hmm. But then the documentation training that I took that was live action, it was a lot. Like it was.
Was it that one that I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it was that anxiety inducing. I think it's anxiety inducing for people that are not good at documentation. And most of the people that are good at documentation would take that training because they'd want to get better at documentation. They would take that training and then be immediately sent into panic mode because they think about all the things they're doing wrong. Right. And I went into that training being like, oh, okay, I think I can like finesse a couple of extra things or like include a couple of things in my documentation that would really like be beneficial that I might recommend to somebody else to implement, but I don't know if I would inherently require it.
Right.
It's just like ways of like, okay, well, I do these, like I structure it this way and I like think through it this way, but like that wording is helpful. Like I'll include some of that wording here and here, or like I've adapted a little bit of my style, but overall I would say like it felt more like a scare tactic. And that's what
in this podcast.
We do.
Scare tactic in like half of our episodes.
That's so funny. We should have a scare tactic counter, like word counter,
Yeah, truly.
Because, so that's why I say I think a lot of people struggle with documentation because they know it's important and then they get like totally freaked out by it.
Yeah.
Or they hear some like horror story and they're like panicked.
I definitely think this whole like documentation approach is very much like a spectrum, right? Like I think there are people that think they're really good at it and just don't care, and then I like just don't do enough. I have seen that. And then there's the opposite end that's like super anxious, like afraid they're not doing it right, don't know what to do, right? Maybe too much. Like there's these extremes, and then in the middle is kind of where you want to be, which is like aware of the issues, but not so unaware like that you can just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, so maybe like part of it's like training, part of it's standardization.
Hmm.
I think the other piece is, like I said, I feel like it's a lot of blind leading the blind.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we have so many. There's no guideline. Like there is no like obvious guideline for anything in this. There
Correct.
are, right, there are codes of ethics that we have to follow that don't clearly state documentation guidelines. There are state
Mm-hmm.
regulations that we have to follow per state
Mm-hmm.
depending. There are insurance guidelines that we have to follow. There's just like
Mm-hmm.
general good human guidelines that we have to follow. And then there's also like potential practice guidelines.
That and then like okay, that's all the guidelines. And then there's style. Like your
Yeah.
writing style. Or your like
Yeah.
clinical approach or style.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. There's no standardization.
Right.
And there are ways to, and I always switch the two, make notes. Inherently notes can be, or documentation can be super subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so there isn't really a standardization in that because it is so much of like our experience that we're recalling.
Right. And I think that's part of why, on a deeper level, documentation is challenging because we're having to take an hour's worth of time, which parts of it were incredibly subjective
Hmm.
or very like prone to be incredibly subjective. And we have to document it in the most objective way possible.
Correct. Yeah.
That I
It's
think
that
is the hardest
translation.
part. Yes, it's a
Yeah.
translation. And I think like if for me, who doesn't struggle with it, had to pinpoint I think the hardest part of
Yeah.
learning documentation, it's that. It's
Hmm.
being able to like take the emotions out of it and write as objectively as possible
Right.
and like
Yeah.
really boil things down.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm curious, since we're kind of headed in this direction, what would you say, or is that the number one issue that you see as a supervisor when it comes to documentation
No, the number
or
one issue
barrier?
I see in documentation is that it's too long.
Yeah, same. Taking too much time, it's too long, it's too many words.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's too much
I would
information. Yeah.
fully agree. Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen documentation be too short.
I have. And it was because I told someone that their initial one was too long, and then they went completely opposite. And I was like, oh gosh.
Usually when it's too long, it is a painstaking process to get that person to like become more succinct.
Yeah, that was a super rare situation. And I was like, how did we get one sentence? You're like, you told me it was
One
too
sentence?
long. Literally.
That's wild. Could you imagine? Oh my gosh, one sentence? Was it a run on sentence at the least?
No, a regular size sentence.
That is bonkers.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the like the more common experience is it is painstakingly hard to bring it down and like get it to a point that feels not like a novel.
Seriously. Yeah, because I think like under a part of that is learning be to be able to summarize better.
Yes. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like I think I hear a lot, well, I don't want to miss something or I don't want to
Forget.
forget something is a
Yeah,
big
forget's a
one.
big thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I talk so much about how documentation is not for me.
Exactly.
It's it's not for me. It's not for you as the therapist. It's for your client, number one, and it's for your tracking purposes for insurance for the most part. And I don't remember what the third thing is, as I say. I say a couple things, but I don't know. What do you say in that?
I say that well, kind of the same thing as you, but like different flavor, which is like it all feels relevant because you care so much about your client and you want to be able to remember things and track things. And you're going to have to trust the process that if something is significant to the client, it will continue to come up. So you'll be able to remember it. Like it will be there. Like give yourself the benefit of the doubt that you are going to remember these things. So it's not about documenting every single little thing of like their dog's name and the place they went to school and you know, like
Right. If you're worried about all those things, you're gonna burn out. Like if you're constantly trying to track all of that. And also, like, I forgot someone's name this week in a session, and did my client really care? Not really. They were really nice about it.
Dude,
like, it wasn't the client's name. It wasn't the client's name, I forgot. Just to be clear.
No, I actually have had that. Back when I was seeing like a billion clients, I would like boot up the session, and like the second I would get in, I'd be like thinking to myself, like, I couldn't for the life of me tell you this person's name. And it's not like the client's name's really like coming up in session, right? So like, thank God. But yeah, no. Well, and that's usually what I'll say is like, okay, so you forget their dog's name. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's all right. You're allowed to forget those things and be human. Like, yeah, totally.
I think I get a lot of questions from some people. They're like, how do you not write notes like during session? Like, how do you not sit there with a notebook and like write while you're talking? And I'm like, because I don't need that. Like, that's not that to me takes away from my work. And they're like, well, then how do you document your note afterwards? I'm like, because it's in here. Like, I talked to someone the other day that took a documentation training, and they were recommended to write the note during session.
Like physically?
And I was like, yeah. And I think that the trainer was probably talking about the treatment planning process, not the documentation, but it was like this mix-up that I was like, no. Like, if you at the beginning, if you're a fresh new therapist, I do think it's okay to write notes a little bit. If you're feeling anxious, if you want to get that out of your system, go for it. But I would never rely on that.
I like remember way back, like throwback to way long ago podcast episode where we talked about how like you like write the alphabet in session. I cannot write and listen, even if it's doodling, even if it's mundane, doesn't matter. I get too focused on that thing. I would like mentally shut down if I was writing down notes.
Yeah.
There'd be no way.
I used to write notes all the time. Like, really early, young baby therapist Andrea would like write notes during session all the time. And
I mean, like I'll jot something down to like email if I'm like need to follow up on something, because like I don't want to forget. So I'll write that down. I'll be like, oh yeah, email blah blah blah. Right. Yeah. But that's like, to me, that's more like a to-do than like documenting a note, you know?
Yeah. I used to go through notebooks. I used to just like at the end of a week, like tear out pages and shred them, like when I was ready to let go of the information. Yeah.
That's wild. No, I've never done that. Again, mostly because I can't do that and focus. There's no way.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's process is different, right? But I think it's interesting then, like, how so many people feel like they need to hold on to every single detail of that session. Like, I don't need to know that your client went to McDonald's yesterday. Like, why is that important? And is that important to the session? Was that part of the session? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, is that related to what they're in therapy for? No.
Right. Like, did they go to McDonald's? Did it go to McDonald's and it send them down a shame spiral, and then you talked about body dysmorphia? Well, then you want to say, client went down a shame spiral and we focused on body dysmorphia.
Wow. Take notes, everyone. Take notes now before we get to the next topic so you can still okay.
What I will say, one of my favorite supervision tasks when it comes to documentation, I don't know why I enjoy this. I also love editing papers, which is so funny because I'm not good at it. Like for myself.
Wait.
When it's someone else's. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like, I like
But
doing
like
this thing, but I'm not good. I'm like, that's a really weird marketing strategy.
like if I'm typing something up, then there's errors upon errors, but I like seeing somebody else's thing and then me editing it. But I love when I have a clinician who writes really long notes and I'm like, all right, pull up your notes and I'm going to walk you through how to make that note into 3 sentences. And their mind is usually so blown after like the first reframe of like the first 3 sentences. And I'm just like, here's how I would do it.
I love that. Okay. And a surprise to no one, I do something very similar.
Yeah.
I will write a really lengthy note for a session I've already had.
Mm-hmm.
Like a really, really long version. And then I'll have them
Oh,
edit
that's a
it
good
down.
idea.
And the reason I like to do it that way is because I think it's easier when it's not your client to summarize.
Yeah.
And if like summary is it's like summarizing is a skill and it's so much a part of documentation, I'm like, okay, it's going to be easier if it's not your client. So I will give them a long note of my client and we like summarize it, like boil it down to like 4 or 5 sentences. And then I'll show them the one I actually did after.
That's great. I like that. That's a
So
good
it's like,
skill.
it's very, very similar.
Yeah.
Because I've done it the other way where like they'll show me a note and I'll be like, okay, well, I would like take out this sentence and I would do this and da, da, da. And like that is helpful for some people. Like I've done that a lot and I like that. And I've done it the other way that I mentioned when the lengthy notes are like killing them and myself because it's like I cannot keep reading long notes.
I've never intentionally like written a note myself that was long for them to edit, but I have told them like, okay, next note you write, I do want you to write it long, and then I want you to do a second version of it and shorten it and see if you can do it. And that practice has been really helpful too.
Yeah. And I think that's like the biggest thing is practicing it.
Yeah.
And
well, I think this is also maybe a good spot to talk about like why they shouldn't be long. Like I'm thinking for the client, right? Why as therapists, in your opinion, do we want those notes to be short?
Out of respect for the client's confidentiality.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the a lot of the information they share in session is relevant to their life, but is not relevant to treatment of why they're coming to therapy in the first place.
Correct.
So like I use this analogy a lot. It's like if you're coming in for anxiety and you talk about about your grandma for like 20 minutes and how ridiculous she is, I don't need to put in the note that your grandma likes purple because it has nothing to do with you having anxiety. Yeah. So that 20 minutes is like client discussed current dynamic with grandmother.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
That's 20 minutes in one sentence. Right.
I'm totally.
Yeah.
And in addition to that too, you know, all of our notes are subject to some sort of legal subpoena if anything is ever to happen or an insurance audit. And we don't want all that information to be out there. It's not necessary. And in the off chance that you write your notes like novels and go crazy and somebody's notes are subpoenaed, well, then there's all this extra information that could be twisted and turned and used in different like and be problematic.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's an extreme situation, but it has happened.
Yeah, and I think that's like the big bad that clinicians are scared of is like, oh, like what if I get subpoenaed? And it's like, yes, it is possible. But the worst thing a clinician, I mean, you might have a different idea than me, but I'm guessing we'll agree because we're the same person. is I think the worst thing a clinician could do in regards to documentation is not do it. Not having anything is worse than having too long of a note.
Yep, totally.
So like, if you're out there and you're struggling, I hear you, and there's people out there that can support you, but like, no documentation is the worst possible outcome.
Correct.
Like, at least something. Even if it's a sentence, even if it's a novel, something is literally better than nothing.
Yep. I I fully agree. I fully agree. Like there are so many problems with just documentation not existing. As like what we're seeing in the media, right? Like there's lack of documentation or there's missing documentation, right? We see this in so many circumstances.
Yeah. Or inadequate documentation, which is kind of like more what we're talking about, which is like cross your T's, dot your I's. It's like not quite
Yeah.
that challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then, I mean, that also touches, I think, a little bit on other guidelines that we do and do not have, which is some practices require treatment plans and diagnostic criteria statements and discharge
Mm.
planning and mental status exams. But, there isn't that regulation for private practice necessarily. And there is for some, like, eh, and Medicaid requires certain documentation that others don't. So it's like there isn't a set standard. And I think I am of the mindset of like I'm always going to do a treatment plan whether it's thorough or not because like it is a good practice for me and it is helpful for my clients in a lot of circumstances, but a lot of times like who knows when I'm going to need that, right? Like it can be helpful. But
Yeah, and I think that's part of why documentation can be such an Achilles heel for people is because there's no set structure.
right.
Like if you're in private practice, you're in group practice, you're working at the county, whatever, like the structure of documentation is so different.
Yeah.
It's so different. And a lot of times it puts the responsibility on the clinician to figure out how they want to document. And then even like
Mm-hmm.
setting their own structure. And then I think the other piece of documentation we haven't directly talked about yet is like creating their own system for doing it.
Yeah.
That's I think the other really like big challenge of
Mm-hmm.
clinicians getting documentation done in the field is like they don't know how to create a system to be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have
I
a
mean,
very, very rigid system.
I'm curious what your system is because I think mine's not as rigid, but I think mine has become more of a habitual system where it just is like it's just what I do and it works for me and like am I rigid on it? Yeah, but like if I mess up, I'm okay. I'm going to catch up on it the next day. Like but
Yeah.
it's a habit.
Yeah, that's the thing is like it's very much a habit for me. I don't even really think about it. So maybe I should just like take this opportunity to like thank the autism part of my brain. I don't know. Because most ADHD people like couldn't make a habit out of this, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
habit formation is really, really challenging for ADHD people. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I got a rigid system. Like my notes are always done before I like stop working for the day, basically.
Mm. I do my
Always.
notes the next morning every single time
I can't.
before I do anything. Hmm.
It's too hard for me to get back into. So I
It's
always have
it's
to do it same day.
oddly it's oddly my way of getting back into therapy brain. Like it's like this interest for me. It's like I gotta
It's
write
like a
this note. I
transitional
gotta
activity.
exactly
Yeah,
because
interesting.
like at the end of the day for me, I'm such a switch it off and head out of the room person that sitting here for any like moment longer makes me like I need like vibrating, so I need to go. But in the
Mm.
morning it's a great transitional thing for me where I can sit here with my coffee and like and just go and do it, and that was what worked for me. And obviously it's different for everyone, but it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like now it's a habit. And yeah, it's a struggle for me for some days, and some days I'll totally forget, especially now that I have to like run a practice. I'm like, wait a second, there's other shit I gotta do. Or I'll get like excited about doing something else, but it's still like every morning I check in. And the good thing about the health record system that we use is that it reminds you, and then it reminds you, and then it reminds you until you get it done.
True. Yeah, I feel like, when you described yours as kind of like a way to get back into work, essentially. It
Hmm.
made me realize that my way of doing it is like a way for me to like turn my brain
Yeah.
off and feel like I am done because
Yeah.
it's complete,
That makes sense. That's
right?
yeah. And it's a
Yeah.
different if a different level of transitionary object. Yeah.
Right. The other thing is like, I've done documentation enough to know that, like, if I actually sit and focus on it, it will not take me long at all.
Totally. I told someone yesterday, I think I said, my notes, I asked them first, how long are you spending on one note? And their answer was outrageous, but I love asking that question because
I
then I
hate
tell them
love
how
that
long
question.
exactly.
I know, I hate love it. I hate love that
Exactly.
question.
And then I told them how long I take, and I think I probably take like maybe a minute.
Yeah, I was gonna say like minute or two.
Like,
Two
yeah,
tops. Two
yeah.
tops.
If it's a long-term client, sometimes it's 30 seconds. Like, because I know I have the words in my head. I know what therapeutic interventions I do regularly. Like, I can pull those out and just pop them in. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I've ever been tempted to and have asked the question, how long does it take you to write a note? I
Mm-hmm.
never get an answer back that's mine.
Mm-mm.
Never. Never. I never do.
No.
Yeah. So I was like, maybe like 20 minutes. I'm like, 20 minutes?
Yeah. Well, and then, this is a whole other track we could go down, but there are still a lot of practices that do not pay for documentation time. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
why are you spending as much time on your documentation as you are that you could have like two other clients? Not saying
Or,
you should have two more clients, but
but yeah, for example, like literally do anything else with your life.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because, like,
Rest, eat.
yeah. Like Andrea used to do, take 7-minute power naps
So
between
true.
sessions. I mean,
Yeah.
even if I had a packed day and I was like full of meetings, I got to the end of the day and I hadn't been able to document it all. Let's
Hmm.
say it's 5 sessions I had to document, 10 minutes.
Max.
So it's like, it's so much easier
Hmm.
for me to stay in work brain and just be like, oh, I don't want to do this, it's going to take forever. And I'm like, it's never going to take me forever. Like, it never takes me
Right.
that long. And then it just like,
Yeah.
boom, 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 I'm done. Right?
Yeah.
So I think part of it is like being able to have the habit and a system for it, but also it's like training your brain and having the discipline to know that it
Hmm.
won't actually take you forever, but you
Yeah.
do have to like focus and work at it.
Yeah. Now, I will preface this too by saying, like, we are in private practice, which does mean that we don't have some of the additional documentation that things like Medicare, community mental health requires. But
Right.
even if I think back to when I was in community mental health and I had endless paperwork, I still don't think it took me an hour to get a full day's worth of clients done. I think maybe an hour. Like, and at that time I did get paid for that hour, but it was like because I was, maybe I did an intake that day, or maybe I like,
It's the intakes.
it's the intakes, right? And that is going to be the longest thing, and so I acknowledge that. But even then I was like, I'm still not taking, like, I would leave if my last client ended at 5, I would leave at 6 and there would still be people documenting in there, and I'm like, what's come on, what
Yeah.
are we
That does
doing?
make me curious, like how long do you think it takes you to write an intake note? I actually just did one today, so I generally know about how long it takes.
And then now, I mean, maximum 5 minutes, not even.
Really?
Well, for intakes, I do probably write more in like on a piece of paper
Yeah, I
usually.
do too. Yeah, yeah.
And I will sometimes have my like intake questions pulled up on my computer so that I'm like writing and kind of comparing and making sure I'm answering everything. So I think I have a system down pretty much now where I'm just like entering in what I wrote in session.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not having to like recall all of, because intakes are so much more.
In depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think if you included like all of the initial session documentation, so not just like the initial session note, but then the like other pieces of documentation you usually do at the first session.
Hmm.
Like I put a diagnosis in, not a treatment plan, but I put like a diagnosis
Mm.
in, right? And I save it.
Yeah.
Or like I do a mental status exam and I save it.
Yeah.
Like I sign the consent forms too, that kind of thing. Like if I put it all together, 15, maybe
Yeah,
20.
I guess with with like a treatment plan, depending on if I talked about treatment plan in a session or not, treatment plan for me does include like diagnosis, then maybe more like 10, 15. But I do that kind of collaboratively with my clients, so it's pretty easy for me to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I just do initial sessions infrequently enough
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I haven't really like I don't know, been able to get super formulaic with it, so they usually just take me
Yeah.
longer.
When I was in community mental health, I was in both clinics that I worked in. I did like a day where I was the intake coordinator or whatever. So I would just do intakes, and then at one job would have 2-hour chunks throughout the week that were for intakes, and they were 2 hours long. And I would have to do like go
Oh
question by
God.
question, make sure I did a safety plan if that was necessary. I'd have to do a genogram on these intakes. I'd have to do like,
The last time I
yeah.
did a genogram was when I was in school. Wow, fly a kite. That's insane.
Yeah. And they were 2 hours long. And I do not, sometimes I'm like, I liked that because I didn't have to continue to see the client. I just got to assign the client. And that was fun sometimes. Like I got to like diagnose them and kind of get into the nitty gritty, but then be like, I don't have to see you anymore.
Yeah, I
But
have solved
I
your
don't miss,
mystery. Peace.
yeah, but I don't miss the documentation piece of that at all.
Oh yeah, that sounds brutal. I didn't really have
Yeah.
anything like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was
Oof.
interesting.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
Genogram for an intake?
Hmm. Yeah, for every single client.
Barf.
Uh-huh. I love them, but I'm a
Barf.
weirdo.
I mean, it'd be one thing if you chose to do it voluntarily.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Yeah. But
Couldn't be
needless to
me.
say, like, there's so many, like, and that was a practice. That was a practice guideline. So, like, that was the
Right.
clinic's guideline, right? And that's not for everyone. That's not what we do.
Yeah, that's not what I do.
No.
Mm-mm. No. Yeah, documentation is such an interesting one. Um,
Hmm.
I just don't
Yeah.
think it discriminates for clinicians.
Mm-mm.
Like, I mean, I can't think of a single person I supervise that hasn't struggled with documentation, at least in some way.
Right. Right. I mean, do we feel like we need to spend a moment on like severe documentation, mandated reporting type documentation?
Oh, like we have, what do you mean, like weigh in on like how we do it or like how tricky it is or like things to
Maybe,
consider?
yeah, like the trickiness of it and the like ethics and things that come with that, because I think that's another major source of what do I do, how much do I document, what do I say? And again, like this is tough to talk about generally because there's so much context that comes with that. And a lot of times I will tell people, if you don't know what to document, reach out to someone. Talk to a colleague, reach out to a supervisor, talk like there are people out there that can help and support you if you're feeling stuck. But if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know how to do this, then ask for help. Like you don't have to sit there and do it and feel like you're doing it wrong or be afraid that you're going to do it wrong or that you're going to miss something. Consult with someone.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I almost like even hesitate to go into that because of context.
Yeah. 100%.
Because it is a really important thing and it's a necessary thing. And
Hmm.
obviously, like, I have a lot to say about that, but I don't
Yeah.
want any of it to be without context.
And there isn't really a way to bring context to this, right? Unless we
Right.
were doing some sort of a case study. And I think that's why I bring this up as like this idea of if you're stuck or if you're struggling, that there is support for that. Because I think some therapists isolate themselves in that and think that they need to be able to do it all on their own, which then leads to issues and errors.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that we see in media is, oh, this clinician didn't call the police, right? Oh, this clinician didn't document this suicidality. And it's like, well, there is actually a lot of context that goes into those decisions. And maybe that, maybe not calling the cops was an appropriate decision. Maybe like doing this other thing was a better decision in that moment, right? But documenting and consulting and finding support in that is very important.
Absolutely. And also, too, like, the idea is nobody else struggles with this, and that's the reason why you're isolating yourself. That's just, again, that's just not the case.
Yeah.
Like, I really have not met clinicians that don't struggle with documentation or have
Completely.
struggled with documentation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, my struggle looked a lot different, right? Because I had no idea what I was doing, and I tried to get support, and I, like, didn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hashtag bad supervision. But then I, like, took trainings, and I, like, looked at other people's documentation, and I had to work at it and, like, work with it,
Yeah.
and I'm glad I did, and now I don't really struggle with it. And I get that, somebody might look at that and be like, oh, you didn't really struggle. And it's like, yes, it could have been a lot worse. Yes, like,
Yeah.
absolutely. But, like,
Yeah.
everyone struggles with documentation. They just do.
Totally. And I hope that, like, us saying that we no longer struggle or we've made it through that struggle gives, like, maybe a new clinician some idea of hope that there is a way to make it work. Olivia and I had different struggles with this, and we do have different methods, but we both don't struggle anymore. And I'll admit, sometimes my notes are a little bit longer than others if I'm real getting into it, and then I have to check myself. But, like, it gets better.
It does, yeah. Like, and there's ways to there's ways to get better, and there's things you can do. There's systems you can try, and you're definitely, like, not alone in it. And it is a tricky thing. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of, like, fear mongering. There's a lot of, like, lack of structure and gray area. But, like, it's an important part of the work that we do, and it's totally possible to do it well.
100%.
Yeah. So hopefully we were encouraging and not, scared everyone off from documentation.
I do think we took, like, more of a normalization approach rather than a, like, make sure you do all these things approach. So,
well, I don't. What would be the point of doing that in a podcast?
I know, right? Like,
yeah, I maybe I'd want to do that if I wanted to do, like, a training on documentation, but
yeah,
I can't train anyone for any reason at all ever. Like, that would mean I'd have to basically be a teacher, and I think I'd be a terrible teacher. So. Not gonna be doing that.
You're a supervisor, so you're kind of already a teacher.
Yes, but that's on a one-on-one. Yeah, one-on-one, I can teach. Group setting, I don't want to do that.
That's fair.
Well, curious what you all think about documentation, maybe why you struggle with it, what's been helpful for you, or just, like, maybe shout out people that have been supportive for you in the process of trying to figure out a system, or, like, help you in documentation. This is a challenging work, and so it's good to remember that we're all in this together, and it's totally normal to struggle with it, and it'll get better.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm fighting the urge to start singing High School Musical. What? All in this. Okay, I'm done. That's all I needed.
You got it out. It was, like, burning in your brain.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my goodness. Well, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all the above. Let us know if there's anything that you want us to talk about in our podcast in relation to the field. And we will catch all of you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Good night.
This podcast is for entertainment, informational, and educational purposes only. Although the hosts are licensed therapists, this podcast is not a substitute for professional mental health services. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship.
If you are experiencing mental health concerns, please seek help from a qualified mental health professional in your area. If you are in crisis, call or text a suicide prevention line in your country immediately. In the U.S., you can call or text 988 or use online chat at 988lifeline.org.